All right, well, should we call the meeting to order?
Yep.
Great. And
Do some roll. Commissioner Castillo-White.
Here.
Chair Jansen's.
Here.
Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Kester.
Here.
Chair Allen. Vice Chair Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Hill. And Commissioner Steffen.
great, for all those who would like to stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, well, our agenda tonight is for Erica and Nick to present to us what they've got, but it's all about the historic district. Unless anybody has anything else to discuss, then I'm gonna turn it over to you.
All right, do you want me to start?
Yeah,
You can
That'd be
chime
great.
in.
Yeah.
Wait, I
okay.
see no easel with,
I know, and I'm gonna talk about that. So at our last meeting, we brought the sign toppers for people to review and to vote on. And it was during that conversation that the committee really discussed the opportunity for those sign toppers to say Hungry Hill Historical District. And I felt the passion in this room about that language. And Aaron, at the last meeting, you looked at me and you said, "How are you feeling about this?" And I just kind of stopped because I couldn't gather my thoughts clearly, and I just said, "I'm really glad we're having this conversation." And after that meeting, you know, I think it's great. We can definitely go in that direction. But if we do go into that direction, I want to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. Because putting the word district on the sign kind of means that it's gone through like a process of being recognized as a district in some fashion. I don't want to put up signs that say Hungry Hill District and then have folks up in the, I don't know, the Strawberry Hill subdivision come back and say, "Hey, we want street toppers too that say Strawberry Hill Historical District."
Mm-hmm.
Well, how do we know you're a historical district up there on Strawberry Hill? So I know we can go into the direction that you're wanting to go with the words Hungry Hill District on sign toppers. But we're gonna have to fill in with some additional process. And so Nick was gracious enough to, you know, put together a memo. And we wanna open it up. We wanna open up that conversation again. Would the committee like to go in the direction of Hungry Hill Historical District on the sign toppers?
not historical, but historic.
Historic,
Yeah,
yes, historic district.
Well, can we find out, can we talk about what that entails?
Yes.
So let's talk about the process.
Yep.
Because I actually talked to Sharon Nesbitt a little bit about it today, and it was interesting.
Great. So the process would be, we need to come up with some kind of local local historic district
Criteria.
and standards. And those standards can either, and staff will have to have this conversation, they could be in our development code or they could be in our comprehensive plan. It doesn't really matter kind of where they're housed.
Right.
You will have to look at them when creating a historic district. Now, what that code criteria could be, we don't know. I don't know yet. We're gonna have to do a little bit of research.
Uh-huh.
And there are folks in the state that that staff can reach out to.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because after the last meeting, I was actually kind of trying to dig around and see if standards existed, and what little there are devilishly hard to find. But there does seem to be some sort of standard, both, I mean, at the state level, as to what constitutes a historical district for the state. And then I did also see references to historic district code in other municipalities, particularly the city of Portland, I know has, and I think Gresham might too, has distinct language on what constitutes a historic district. So, I mean, that would at least be a place to start.
Yep.
Does Gresham have many historic districts?
I don't know, but I just know when I was trolling around on the internet trying to find some standard of some sort that wasn't in New England, that, because the first things I turned up was all in Boston. I saw some references to a standard in Gresham, I think. I've slept since then. But I don't know.
Gresham does have a historic district.
Main Street downtown?
I think so. I don't know what all encompasses, because I was talking to,
Well, but I wonder if their historic district is kind of like what we were gonna put up.
they have a sign that says historic district I was at the post office this evening. And so I just know there definitely is, but I don't know what all that
think the downtown
entails.
does too.
Well, for sure McMinnville does, Camas does, maybe maybe Vancouver might have a historic district. So
Oregon City.
Oregon City, yeah, so if they're all around us, it should be pretty easy to.
Yep.
Do you remember having this conversation?
I think,
No, okay.
I
so-
think this
but-
committee had this conversation a couple years ago.
That's what I'm
because
thinking, that there was
I-
something, because we were looking into the comparables,
I went back
yeah,
in the history of this committee
Yeah.
and I found some of that work.
yeah.
And I was like, oh, this shouldn't be too new to them. Like they had this
Yeah.
conversation before, and I'm
This
sorry.
has been a number of years, it was pre-COVID, I think.
We talked about Hungry Hill and what that would be, what that area is, but it never came down to we need to have criteria and make it an official district.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is a no-brainer, it's like, why didn't we do that
I
in the
know,
first place?
I know it, I know it.
No, it's okay. And so the process here, so staff, we would
Okay.
go back, kind of craft some language that the committee can look at.
Mhm.
And then we can have a conversation on, you know, if we like the language or if we need to tweak it. And
Uh-huh.
once we decide on some language, then at that time, we're gonna have to, I think, put our heads together and maybe discuss, okay, should this be in the development code or comprehensive plan? And then it doesn't really matter if it's in both, if it's in one document or the other document, it still has to go to planning commission. So the process would be, we would probably have a joint work session with the planning commission, to let them know this is a project that this group has been working on for a couple years. We want to have a historic district so we can put up sign toppers. We might even at that time have new sign toppers for you to look at that say Hungry Hill,
Uh-huh.
so we can present that information as well. And then, you know, planning commission and this committee can have that conversation. And to give them a heads up, this is coming, we're gonna have a public hearing on this.
Mhm.
And then go through the hearings process with, planning commission and city council. But I do wanna back up, because there's a lot of public engagement that needs to happen.
Okay.
I would wanna engage the TCAB committee, because they're downtown here. And I also would wanna engage our, community advisory committee as well. So, I am proposing, if this committee wants to go down that route, staff, what we will do is we will come back in February and we will outline a complete work
Process.
plan
Mhm.
with dates of meetings, that will keep us on track for 2025, that holds us accountable and the committees accountable of achieving this work.
I think that sounds like a good plan. I think that we should take a vote on it. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll move that we direct staff to do that. I'm blanking on the word, sorry.
Okay, do I have a second for that? Okay, Leon seconded, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Frank, do you,
Frank, anything?
Aye.
Great. Okay, fantastic. Well, that would be great. I love that you're adding the dates in there and that we'll have a full plan.
you'll have a complete plan in front of you.
Move it forward. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for listening and for taking action on that.
I heard the passion in your voices last month.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big deal. And it was funny after talking to Sharon today, she was like, well, what are you talking about? Like, to have a historic district, you've got to have all these, surveys and all these processes and the development code. And I was like, oh yeah, why haven't we done that?
And that's what I was thinking
Like,
about
yeah,
that
we
at
need
the
to
last
follow
meeting
that.
when you're like, and how are you feeling about this? And I
Yeah.
was like, there's too much in my brain.
Yeah, just like spinning around.
But when we talked about it years ago, Sharon was here,
Yeah.
but it didn't come up.
It didn't come up then, but we were looking at other cities about how they did it.
Yeah.
We did do that. I mean, there was a work session over in Camas, and we had pictures of all these different historic districts. Remember that?
Sorry.
I think that was during Chris's.
Might have been,
Yeah.
So it seems to, one of the impression that I got from the digging I was able to do is that it's sort of a kind of a gradation of requirements and standards. And
Yeah.
the top of the list is like the National Register, which is, having the most strict.
That is
laid
the
out
most restrictive.
standards.
So we would be a local historic
Yeah.
district.
Right,
So we-
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like as you
But-
go down from the national level, things get a little less restrictive, a little more open, sometimes a little more vague. But still trying to keep pieces of what some may consider to be the gold standard. As far as definition goes.
Well, one of my concerns, and this I'm pulling back an old memory long ago, is there was a certain percentage of buildings in the area that needed to meet the criteria of being historic.
That was,
And
I remember reading that in one of the things I dug up.
That's somewhere back there. And one of my concerns about waiting is we've lost several of those buildings since that time.
we're still losing them.
And we're still losing them, and we'll lose more over the next year.
Yep. So that is something that Nick and I will look into, because I know that is one of the standards
Right.
that exists. It doesn't necessarily mean that the city has to use that standard.
Okay, okay. So if I see what you're saying, so we potentially could kind of make our own criteria if we're just doing a local standard versus doing anything with a state SHPA standard or
Yep.
anything.
I would, in an ideal world, that all those houses that were on Hungry Hill are still here. I mean, then you were looking at, his historic buildings and south, but I kind of see this Hungry Hill as the actual hill,
Boundary, yeah.
not the buildings that are on it,
Mhm.
but the actual hill itself. Having, having the church on there is important, having the other small houses that were there originally is important. Like I said, we're losing a lot.
Mhm.
The site is more important in a way than the structures.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
the place.
It tells the story.
Yeah,
But it'd be nice to know later on if there are some structures that somehow we come up later on possibly with a way for it to be noted. So if you pass one and, you know, I don't know, something that signifies that from
yeah.
our marketing or whatever, our logos or whatever that, you know, but small.
The original
Because
houses.
that would be fun,
Yeah.
you know.
Which goes back to that, to our previous discussion about expanding the historic structure list, the official one.
What will we add on to? I'm not sure.
Well, just combining efforts to a certain extent, because remember, there's the official list of historic buildings in the code, and then there's the much longer list,
The inventory.
the inventory, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, things to ponder.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you did though.
I did. I was driving
Really
home
listened
and I'm
to
like,
us,
okay,
thank you.
I know we can do what they want, but,
Yeah.
and I always hate using that word, but.
Yeah. There's just more to do before we do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not too much more, but
No,
you know,
I think it's
but
the right thing, though.
It's the right thing and it's a process and, you know, I wanna make sure that, we do it the right way.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody does, sounds like.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I'm not sure what else should we talk about?
Do you have anything else or do you wanna add anything or?
Nick, you look
I-
slightly tanned.
I do?
Yeah, have you been somewhere sunny?
No, but thank you.
Oh.
I've had indoors
Oh, it's just
for like a
windburn,
month.
huh? It's windburn.
He's going to Japan soon, I don't
Oh,
think that's
you
too
are?
I'm
sunny.
jealous,
No, I think it's kind of similar to here, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it'll be good.
It's funny, a lot of people are going to Japan lately.
It's really affordable right now.
That's great.
Oh, yeah.
Been thinking about it.
I think so. We kind of covered vaguely these items.
Well, hang on, maybe we should perhaps, wrap this meeting up and then we can ask some other questions that are unrelated to the historic, to the HLC. So, is there any other business for the HLC to do right now on anyone's mind? If not, we can adjourn this meeting, but I've got questions for them.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Great. All in
Second.
favor, say yeah. Great, okay, motion to adjourn, we're adjourned, okay,
All right, that was quick.
okay.
Bye Frank, have a good night.
See.